Now, a Swiss court has sentenced a former Gambian interior minister to 20 years in prison for crimes against humanity committed when President Yahya Jammeh was in power. Ousman Sonko fled to Switzerland in 2016, shortly before Mr. Jammeh was voted out of office. Switzerland has been trying the case under the principle of universal jurisdiction after the NGO Trial International presented evidence from several witnesses that linked Mr. Sonko to numerous crimes against humanity. Prosecutors said the former head of the Gambian police supported, participated in, and failed to prevent systematic attacks by the Gambian security forces against opponents of former President Jammeh. With more on this, let's cross live to the UK and speak with the African Affairs analyst Paul Ejime, who's also a global security and governance analyst. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ejime, for joining us. So tell us more about Ousman Sonko and the crimes he's alleged to have committed.
Well, that's one impression. I think the picture being shown is that of the current Prime Minister of Senegal, who, by the way, I think the mix-up was caused by almost that they bear the same name, but they are no relation. One is Ousman, no E. The one in Senegal has an E. He is the Prime Minister now in the Senegal, but the one we're talking about is Ousman, Ousmn, without an E. He is the former minister in Gambia. So he's the one that has been jailed. And he was one of the foot soldiers, in fact, of Yahya Jammeh, who was accused of, a range of human rights, war crimes, appearances, and then repression of the opposition. There was a group called the Jungle. These are the security apparatus that Yahya Jammeh used to, fight his opponents. And Ousman Sonko, sentenced to 20 years, was one of those his henchmen who were behind all those criminalities and then the atrocities. So right. He had gone into exile just before Yahya Jammeh was taken out of office in 20 over the disputed election. He said he won, but actually he didn't win. So ECOWAS and others made sure that he was removed. He's now in exile in Equatorial Guinea. But Sonko had gone seeking asylum in Switzerland in 2016. But in 2017, based on the application by some civil society groups under the universal jurisdiction principle. And that was how he ended up now coming. He's the highest ranking African now being jailed. Otherwise, they were younger, they were junior people that have been jailed too under Jammeh.
Thanks for Right, thanks for setting that out for us. And in his defense, he had said he was innocent and had alleged that it was a different unit that was directly under President Jammeh that carried out the atrocities. But the prosecutor argued that he could have stopped a lot of the atrocities from happening, but he didn't. And in some cases, made sure they did in fact happen. Is that fair?
That was what the lawyers said. I mean, to be able to convince that some crimes have been committed, crimes against humanity, war crimes. Against humanity because there was no war in the Gambias at the time, but wide, blatant violation of human rights, suppression of the opposition. Of opponents of Yahya Jammeh. So he couldn't, that his argument didn't stand because the defense, the lawyers, prosecution said that they were able to put up a good case to convince them that the man, even if he didn't participate directly, that he has what you call the highest responsibility as one of the senior officials in the Gambia then.
Right. I suppose that he was one official that they were able to catch, and therefore he had to face the music. And of course, as you said, he fled Gambia some 8 years ago, and he obviously hoped that by fleeing he would evade justice. But of course, he came to face trial in Switzerland, a country thousands of miles away, and that is because of this thing you mentioned earlier, this principle of universal jurisdiction. Just very briefly, tell us more about that principle.
It says that persons can be prosecuted in another country if sufficient evidence, were brought up to show that not necessarily in the place where the crime was committed. That is very good for Africa and for the world. The same principle was used when Hissène Habré of Chad, who was tried by an international tribunal in 2016 and jailed for life. He actually died in prison. They gave him life. So what it does is that impunity can be punished anytime. It doesn't matter how long, they say that lie can run, but truth will always catch up with it. So this is what is happening. And that is good to show African leaders today that they may get away in the interim with, impunity or atrocities, but the law, the long arm of the law can catch up with them at any time.
Well, it certainly seems to have caught up with Mr. Sonko, and he was given a 20-year sentence, even though the prosecutors asked for life. But presumably there's some scope for appeal.
Yes, there is. And everybody has to be given fair hearing. Fair hearing. I think that is what is happening here. Until you are proved that, you're presumed innocent until proven to be guilty. So there's that window that he can appeal this 20 years. But time will tell whether he will succeed or maybe get a shorter sentence, or whether he will be acquitted altogether. But all the same, this single act, this shows that impunity cannot go unpunished. And this is the type of gesture that Africans will want from Western countries or partners, to show that you do not assist in welcoming criminals, or when the proceeds of corruption, when they now steal from national posts and then go and stash it in foreign banks. You know that Switzerland has been accused of being a safe haven of some of these of wealth from all sources, but it will appear that narrative is changing.
Well, absolutely. And just remind us, Paul, of how President Jammeh, who lost the election, I believe in 2016, but refused to leave office, came to be removed. And Nigeria played a significant role in his removal, didn't it?
Exactly. And that is why people are worried now today that the same Nigeria appears to be having problems of asserting its position. Because in the ECOWAS region, I must say, in those days, Nigeria could use, and like you rightly said, Nigeria used its military might to send troops almost to land in Gambia, and use its Alpha jet flying overhead the presidential palace in Banjul. Those were the things that facilitated Yahya Jammeh being picked up and then taken to exile. And so it appears, where is that power gone now? Has Nigeria lost its mojo, or what is happening? What is happening in ECOWAS today is a typical metaphor. What is happening to the giant? Nigeria needs to take back its glory days and power. Yes, this is the Sonko we are talking about, different from the one that had been shown in at the opening. Kudos to your technical guys.
Right. Well, we appreciate your pointing that out to us, and that is, of course, Ousman Sonko, who was found guilty and sentenced earlier to 20 years in prison for crimes against humanity. He was the Interior Minister in the Gambia under the regime of President Yahya Jammeh. Paul, thank you very much indeed. Paul Ejime is an African affairs analyst. He's also a global security and governance analyst, and he was talking to me there on the line from Poole in northern Britain.